Imagine being so broke that you are on food stamps, yet you decide to invest $25,000 in a mentorship anyway. Some would call it crazy. Others might call it brilliant. Today, speaker trainer Marianne Hickman reveals the unconventional path that took her from invisible to influential, building a multi-million-dollar business while raising 6 children. Yes, you heard that right, 6. She's challenging everything that you've probably heard about public speaking, time management, and leveraging your story. So if you are a dark horse entrepreneur ready to stop hiding and ready to start dominating your industry, I want you to buckle up, grab that favorite beverage, a pencil, and a piece of paper, because this is not just another interview. I think this could be your wake-up call. Welcome to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, where being a busy parent isn't your limitation. It is your superpower. Superpower. I'm Tracy Rittman, and this is not your typical hustle harder podcast. No. This is for busy parent entrepreneurs who refuse to choose between bedtime stories and business dreams. Every single episode delivers actionable strategies for turning your limited time into unlimited potential. From digital marketing and side hustles to online courses and passive income, we're here to help you build an empire between soccer practice and science projects. Because we dark horses, we do not wait for the perfect time, we create it. What is up? What the hell is up, my dark horse friends and family? Like I said, man, I'm going to want you to buckle up, because today we're joined by Marianne Hickman, a speaking powerhouse who has turned stages into money-making machines, has been doing that so long, probably so long before most of us even figured out how to use PowerPoint. She is the secret weapon behind a company's explosive growth, going from $2 million all the way to a staggering $25 million in revenue. And when Marianne isn't out there raising her 6 kids or building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, just one of those low achievers, she's teaching entrepreneurs how to command attention, how to crush their message, and how to cash in on their expertise. So you see, she's got 33 years of transforming whispers into war cries. And she's not just talking about speaking success. She's actually created a blueprint for it. So get ready to learn how the world's number one fear could actually be your ticket to the world's number one income opportunity. One of the things that fascinates me about Marianne's journey is her mastery of public speaking, something that consistently ranks as people's number one fear. It even ranks higher than death, if you can believe that, right? I've read this a number of times in surveys that are taken. And I remember my own journey in public speaking way back in the Coca-Cola days. I joined Toastmasters to improve my skills. And even after years and years of practice, and I mean this, years and years, I was in there for about a decade, and speaking to corporate groups and little groups and big groups and small groups, I still felt the butterflies flying around when I faced a crowd of 1,500 people. When I asked Marianne about this phenomena, about getting those butterflies to fly in formation, her response, I think it was illuminating.
That's put so beautifully. And to your point, I don't think that the butterflies are ever supposed to go away.
Agreed.
Completely, but harnessing them, like you've said, to have them fly in formation means it's this nervous energy that you're talking about, these nerves, and they can come from a variety of things. But the experienced speakers, our nerves come from, am I going to do a good enough job to where the audience is actually better off? Yeah. Am I going to do a good enough job to justify the request for me to come speak? The beginning speakers, they have butterflies for different reasons. They're like, oh, what if my pants fall down? What if my mic craps out? What if the lights shut off? What if me, I? That's selfish nerves.
What struck me about Marianne's perspective is the distinction between what she calls selfish nerves versus service-oriented nerves. Beginning speakers worry about themselves. So what if my pants fall down? What if the mic fails? What if this? What if that? But experienced speakers, like Marianne, they worry about their audience. How can I best serve the people who showed up to listen to me? This shift, this one small shift in perspective, changes everything. It transforms speaking from a performance to a service. And there's something magical that happens when you approach speaking from this service mindset. As Marianne explains, it creates an energy exchange that actually feeds you rather than drains you.
When you do enough of what you love, it doesn't actually drain you. It feeds you.
Yes.
The stage gives me so much energy, and it's not like I'm sapping it from my audience, more like we are 2 candles in a bonfire, and a fire grows by being shared. It doesn't get a fire is the only thing that I can think of that grows when you share it. When you share other things, it diminishes, it gets smaller.
I really love that metaphor. The metaphor of 2 candles creating a bigger fire, a bonfire as it were. It perfectly captures what happens when a speaker and an audience connect authentically. The energy, it doesn't diminish, it multiplies, it magnifies, it fills the room. But Marianne's most powerful insight might be this: the world gives to the givers. the world takes from the takers. This isn't just about public speaking, though. It's a fundamental principle for success, for life, and for business. When you approach your business, your content creation, and your family relationships with a servepreneur attitude, you're going to find yourself energized rather than depleted. Right? You're going to charge up, not charge down. You'll check more boxes on your to-do list if you feel more fulfilled every single day. This service mindset is the foundation for everything Marianne has built, from her speaking career to her real estate portfolio to raising her 6 kids. It's a principle that can transform your business journey as well. All right, let's go from invisible to influential, because every influential voice you hear today, whether it's on a podcast like you're listening to right now, on a stage, or a best-selling book, they all start somewhere. And that somewhere is usually silence, invisibility. That's the place where no one is listening. You've been there, right? Yeah, so have I. I wanted to understand Marianne's journey just a bit more, of going from the place of invisibility to becoming the powerhouse speaker that she is today. What was that turning point? What moment was it when she decided that her voice deserved to be heard? Her answer revealed something profound about that transformation. It rarely happens in a single moment. Instead, it is a series of decisions to stop digging ourselves deeper and start climbing out.
Yeah, I can remember the exact moment, actually, and it we all have these moments where we decide where our rock bottom is, and it doesn't happen just once. It happens over and over and over again. When we decide, this is my rock bottom, I'm going to stop digging and start getting my way out. Well, we all have these beliefs that they're given to us generationally when we're born, and then we have them when we experience enough of life to say, oh my gosh, I've got some baggage now that I'm carrying with me. And it's really hard to run a marathon if you're carrying a bunch of luggage.
Yeah. You with me? That was awesome. What really interests me about Marianne's story is how these early limiting beliefs, they kind of take root like a weed, right? For her, it started with a simple interaction when she was just 4 years old, something her mother probably doesn't even remember, but something that shaped Marianne's self-perception for decades.
And just recently, so my sister's going through my mom's journals, and my mom is a saint. She is 81 years old now, and she kept a journal every day since September of 1986. And, we're talking about 40 years now of daily journal entries. So my sister's taking these, she's scanning them so we can all have them. But she ran across an entry of when I was 4 years old, and my mom was writing about this, and she was so good. She tried to write a line for every one of her 10 kids every day. And the line that she wrote for me that day was, Marianne asked me today when she gets to be the boss. And I told her, never, because you're the youngest.
You see, as parents and entrepreneurs, that right there should literally stop you right in your tracks. How many casual comments have we made to our children that might just be shaping their tomorrow or their today or their next year? How many offhand remarks from our own childhood are still limiting us today, limiting you as well as me? For Marianne, being the youngest of 10 children meant growing up as Ruth's little sister or Andrew's little sister, never fully seen as her own person with her own voice. This is a struggle that many of us, maybe you can relate to, feeling defined by our relationships. Or our jobs, perhaps? Yeah, or the circumstances rather than being defined by your unique gifts. But what changed everything for Marianne wasn't a gradual evolution. It was a dramatic moment of decision at a seminar where she was challenged to walk on broken glass.
I was listening to a speaker, and the speaker did this crazy, weird activity. What they did is they had a bunch of Perrier bottles that they had broken, a bunch of wine glasses from a store that they broke, and they rolled out this tarp, and they threw all this broken glass on this tarp. And they said, now you're going to walk across it. And I was like, are you no, that'd be crazy.
Right?
Like, no. And in my brain, I started understanding, okay, they wouldn't do this if they didn't have all of the things, and they probably don't get where they are by cutting people's feet up on glass. So there's got to be some reason why this works. So I raised my hand, and I'm like, I'm up for anything. I'll sit there. And it was at that point when my toes are up against the glass. I hadn't taken my first step yet. I was walked through this process of thinking and looking at the evidence and saying, first of all, I have to question this idea. Is it true that I don't have a voice? Well, no. I mean, I have one. More importantly, do I want it to be true that I don't have a voice? No, I don't want that to be true, because I think what I have to say is valuable, and not just for my own purposes, but I've had evidences here and there where people have said, thank you for saying what you did.
This glass walking metaphor, I think it's kind of powerful, right? It ranks right up there with the fire walking Anthony Robbins conventions I've been to. Once Marianne stepped right onto that glass, She couldn't turn back. She couldn't turn back without walking over more glass. She had to move forward. And isn't that exactly how transformation works in our lives? In our relationships, in our businesses, right? Inside of ourselves? We reach a point where staying where we are becomes far more painful than the risk of moving forward. But here's the part of Marianne's story I think you're going to find inspiring. And I think it's also most relevant for you dark horse entrepreneurs listening right now. After making that decision to use her voice, her first keynote speech was delivered to an empty room.
When I started speaking my first stage, Tracy, I invited people to my house to come hear me speak, to deliver my keynote for the first time. 0 people showed up.
Ouch.
Not even my husband showed up.
Ow.
Nobody there. But since I had made this decision of I'm going to use my voice, I gave my keynote anyway to a room of 0 people because number one, I didn't want it to be my fault that my voice wasn't heard. Because if I decided not to, because I had a legitimate excuse, then I would not have done my part. And number two, guess what? If you mess up and nobody's watching, you can mess up as much as you want.
This is the reality, ladies and gentlemen, of building influence that most overnight success stories do not, will not, and will never tell you. There's a long period where you're going to be speaking to empty rooms. You're going to be putting out content that nobody reads. You're going to create products that nobody buys. But you need to keep showing up anyway. I've experienced this myself. Some of my most meaningful speaking engagements, they weren't packed auditoriums. They were small groups. Heck, I remember one to this day, 4 ladies sitting in grooming chairs and the 4 ladies that were also doing their hair. Very impactful afternoon. Let me trust you. It was small groups where I could see the impact of the message I was sharing in real time. It's not how many people that hear you. It's how deeply you connect with those who do hear you. For Marianne, that empty room was just the beginning. She kept inviting people over to her house, going from 0 attendees to 3, then to 5, then to 7. Eventually, she had to rent a library space, and she had 50 people show up. Today, she speaks to audiences well over 1,000. This journey from invisible to influential isn't about waiting until you have the damn platform. It's about using your voice before anyone else is even listening, knowing that if your message has value, the right people, they're going to find. Now, I think one of the biggest struggles I see with entrepreneurs today is finding that right balance between vulnerability and credibility. We are consistently told to be authentic, to share your journey, but many worry that revealing their struggles might actually undermine their authority, cut them right off at the knees. This is especially true for my parent entrepreneurs who feel like they need to project this image of having it all together, having that perfect Instagram photograph image business. The perfect family, the perfect life, everything's in order.
The Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
But as we've seen from Marianne's journey, real influence comes from genuine connection, not Instagram perfection. So how do you know which vulnerabilities are going to strengthen your message and which ones might undermine it? Marianne's answer to this question has completely reframed how I am going to be thinking about sharing personal struggles going forward.
So this is a really great topic, and I'm glad that you're bringing it up because some messages are ready for the stage and some aren't.
Oh.
And here's how you tell a difference. If you're telling your story from a place of scars, meaning I went through it, I was there, I know what it's like to kneel by the side of my bed, squeezing my fingers together in prayer because I don't know how to pay my power bill, and I figured it out and I'm here to teach you and help you solve that problem faster than I did, versus I'm on stage and my story is not finished yet and I'm totally in victimhood and now I'm just reciting a list of terrible things that have happened.
This distinction between scars and open wounds, it's brilliant. Don't you think so? Scars represent healed experiences that have made you stronger. They've made you wiser. They're an experience. I have a scar here from when I put my arm right through a closed window. Guess what? I won't be doing that anymore. Got one over here from when I picked up a rabbit as a young child and he started chewing his way across my arm. Think I'll do that anymore? No. Open wounds, on the other hand, those represent unresolved trauma that you're still processing. When you share from your scars, you're coming from a place of strength and service. I can tell you the inane wisdom that comes from putting your angered fist through a piece of plate glass. Don't do it. I can share that because I have the scar. Or, the caution that comes with picking up a wild rabbit. I can share that from this scar. When you share from wounds, however, you're often seeking validation or maybe even looking for a little bit of sympathy. And your audience, trust me, they're going to feel the difference. Marianne lived this principle during her own journey, even when she was on food stamps. She was careful about which parts of her story she shared publicly.
When I was on food stamps, I was still on stage. Was I teaching about how to make money as a speaker then? I hadn't figured it out yet.
Right.
I was on food stamps and I would go to, our church has what's called a bishop's storehouse, and the bishop of our congregation will give you food certificates so that you can go feed your family based on the church's dollar. It's a charitable donation kind of a thing. And I remember walking through the bishop's storehouse, and if you're there, everyone knows why you're there is because you can't afford to buy your own groceries. And I am so grateful for this program, but I still felt embarrassed to be on it because I knew that it wasn't the answer. It was a temporary fix. And I remember walking out of there with my carts full of groceries, hoping that nobody saw me because I didn't want them to see me there and then see me on stage and think I was a hypocrite. And I was very nervous about that.
This, my dark horse friends and family, I think is such an important lesson for all of us. Marianne wasn't hiding her struggles. No. She was being discerning about which parts of her journey she was ready to teach from. She wasn't saying, I've done all these amazing things. No, she knew she could speak authentically about mindset even while she was still on financial aid because she had overcome those particular challenges. But she wasn't yet in a position to teach others how to build financial success as a public speaker. To many entrepreneurs today that I've been lucky enough to come across, they feel pressured to share everything in real time, turning their current struggles into content before they've processed that wound, before they've processed those lessons. But as Marianne points out, there is a critical transition point where your mess actually becomes your message.
Your mess becomes your message. We hear that said all the time, but there's a critical point in there where it's no longer messy. That's not to say you can't live it. I think I have a beautiful mess in my life right now. I'm raising 6 kids. My dog just had 11 puppies. There's a mess in the house all the time, right? It's not to say that I have to be perfect. And I think that's the other extreme. People think that they have to be coiffed and perfect.
This balanced approach to vulnerability is what makes Marianne such an effective speaker and such an effective coach. She's not pretending to have the perfect life. I don't have this Instagram photo life. She's actually acknowledging the beautiful mess of raising 6 kids while running multiple businesses. But she's also not using her platform to process her unhealed wounds or look for validation. For you dark horse entrepreneurs out there, my dark horse parents listening, this is the sweet spot that you need to be aiming for. Share your journey. Of course, share your journey. Include your struggles. Absolutely. You've heard me share some of the lessons of me not sharing my struggles back in the day, but make sure you're sharing from a place of lessons learned rather than wounds that are still bleeding. I'm sorry for the visual you may have just gotten. Then again, maybe I'm not. Maybe you'll remember it as a result of that. Your audience doesn't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be a few steps ahead on the path, reaching back to guide them forward. Remember, it's not about having all the answers. It's about having overcome the specific challenges that you're helping others navigate. Yeah. That's where the true credibility comes from, not from projecting this image of flawless success, but from demonstrating that you have walked the path and can now light the way for others as well. Now, let's talk about what really matters in speaking. As entrepreneurs, we often get caught up in the metrics that look impressive, but they don't actually move the needle one way or the other in our business. Nowhere is this more evident than in speaking and in the coaching world, and podcasting maybe, where follower counts and view numbers almost become this unhealthy obsession. You feel me? Okay. I was curious to hear Marianne's perspective on this. What do entrepreneurs potentially obsess about that really doesn't matter? Her answer cut straight to the heart of one of the biggest distractions in business today.
Oh, that's a phenomenal question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before.
Yay, me.
That's great. So what are people obsessing about that they need not to obsess about? So I would say from a place of experience, because I've obsessed about this and I learned I don't need to, is something that has only become commonplace in the last probably decade or so. And it started out when MySpace was a thing, and then Facebook took over and became the big thing, and then Instagram was the big thing, and now TikTok the big thing, and whoever else, whatever is next is going to be.
Right.
What it is, it's this social media. And just like our earlier touch on this conversation of how many views am I getting? How many people are in the room, and this obsession.
Social media metrics, the modern entrepreneur's addiction, right? Yeah. Social media metrics, maybe even the modern entrepreneur's heroin, whatever. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I'm talking. We've all been there, refreshing our stats, clicking the button over and over again, comparing our follower accounts to other people, equating these numbers to our level of success. But Marianne learned the hard way that these vanity metrics often have very little correlation to actual business results.
I once hired a marketing agency who promised they could get me all of these views and all of these views. And being as ignorant as I was, I thought, great views. Awesome. That means my business is doing well, right? The people with 3 million followers or 10 million followers, they must be doing really, really good in business. So if I can be like them, then I'll be successful.
Right.
I came to very quickly realize after I invested over $5,000 with this marketing agency with 0 customers because of it, that the views didn't matter.
That there is a $5,000 lesson that many entrepreneurs need to hear. You maybe rewind that about 30 seconds and re-listen to it. Okay. You can, by re-listening to it and letting it sink in, that's a $5,000 lesson you don't have to pay for. Views, likes, and follower counts. Yeah, sure. They feed your ego, but they don't necessarily feed your family, your bank account. Okay. I've seen this far too many times. Creators with massive followings who are still struggling to pay the bills, while others with much more modest audiences are building 7-figure businesses. Marianne's experience confirms what many successful business owners eventually discover out there. There is often an inverse relationship between chasing vanity metrics and building a profitable business.
My most popular Instagram video has over 3 million views on it. Does it have anything to do with my business? No. So yay me, I have a viral video, if you will, but who cares? It's not keeping the lights on.
Right.
It's not empowering my business. So the thing is, you can have a successful, thriving 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-figure business and have 5,000 followers on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same. So when you obsess about, oh, it didn't get this many views, my podcast didn't get this many downloads, it's back to our earlier conversation of influence versus impact.
That distinction between influence and impact is crucial. Influence might be measured in followers, but impact, that's measured in lives changed. That's what really matters. So, I can hear some of you in my magic headphones right now. Well, Tracy, if social media metrics aren't the right measure of success, what is? Well, Marianne developed a fascinating experiment to measure her true impact.
I did this experiment one time. This is one of the coolest experiments I ever did. That's so cool. When I first launched this experiment, it was just between me and God, because if I told anybody else, it wouldn't work. So I said, God, I need to measure my impact. I just need a way to know. I need a way to know if what I'm saying is landing. I need to know, is it worth it to keep going? Or should I just shut everything?
Right.
So I made this negotiation. I've negotiated with God several times. He's a good negotiator. And I sat down with him and I said, okay, here's what I want to do. For the next 30 days, I'm just going to count. And I'm going to count the number of times I get unsolicited positive feedback, because if I ask for it, it doesn't count.
True.
I'm just going to count, and I'm going to count in documentable proof, like I could take to trial, which means I need a text message or an email or a handwritten note, some kind of evidence that I can touch that says, just thank you for doing what you're doing. And not because I need the acknowledgement, but I just want to know that it's making a difference. But I can't ask for it because it'll ruin it. And I counted for 30 days and I got 38 separate notes, pieces of feedback, more than one a day.
Oh my goodness. What a powerful shift in perspective. Yeah? You feel me? Okay. So instead of obsessing on how many people were seeing her content, Marianne focused on how many people were actually genuinely being impacted by it. And the results, well, you could say they were remarkable. More than one person every single day took the time to reach out and express how her work had affected them. This is something I've experimented in my own business journey. Some of my most successful content, he says with air quotes, in the terms of metrics, have generated 0 business results. I've got videos out there with thousands of views and shorts and what have you. While some of my other more modest posts have led to life-changing client relationships and a few dollars in them. Okay. So for my dark horse entrepreneurs that are listening right now, I want you to hear this crucial lesson. Go ahead and lean in. Come back to me. Whatever you're doing, stop it just for a second. Right? You're washing those dishes, just pause. Build your business around impact, not influence. Okay, you can go back to what you're doing. I want you to focus on creating genuine transformation for a small group of people rather than chasing all the vanity metrics from a large audience. Remember, again, it's not how many people know your name. I don't care if you ever remember my name, as long as you remember the bearded wisdom that you learn here. It's about how many people that are better off because they encountered your work. That, my friends, I think is the true measure of entrepreneurial success. Okay. So that's leadership from on high. I'm just kidding. You can almost take that as a leadership lesson. And there's a particular style of leadership that I've always found very effective, especially for parent entrepreneurs like yourself. It's not about standing at the front of the crowd and barking orders, right? You're not a drill sergeant trying to train a bunch of green recruits, no pun intended. And another example, it's not about reaching the summit first and then shouting down directions to those that are behind you. It's about climbing alongside those that you're leading and guiding them step by step by step. Marianne shared a powerful story that I think perfectly illustrates this approach of leadership, a rope climbing experience that transformed how she thinks about coaching and mentoring, and it might transform how you think as well.
I was at a ropes course. Have you ever done one of those before where you're like relaying each other? And
Military. Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay, yes. You know exactly what this is. So I had this experience where the owner of the ropes course was doing this team training with us, right? And he said, split up into teams of 2. And one of you is going to be blindfolded, and one of you is going to have your eyesight available to you. And your job is to get both of you to the top of this rock climbing.
Okay.
The Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
So I talked to my teammate and I said, do you have a preference? And he said, I'll go ahead and blindfold. And I said, great, I'll lead. And there was a team that went before us, and I had the benefit of watching them. And one of the team members on that team was a very significance-driven person, if that makes sense.
It does.
And so the person with the eyesight, they climbed to the top as fast as they could. And then they looked down at the person with the blindfold on and were trying to direct traffic from 20 feet up. You're shaking your head. You know this doesn't work, right? I remember the moment when he's like, jump, you're only an inch from it. And from my perspective, I could see he was a good 18 inches from it.
Yeah.
And he fell and caught him and everything.
So what do you think? That's such a perfect metaphor for what often happens in business coaching and leadership, and sometimes in podcasting. The expert races ahead to demonstrate their experience. Look how amazing I am. And they shout instructions down from on high. But from a distance, they really can't accurately gauge where their student or their team member really is. Or worse yet, their family member, their loved one. They can't provide the hands-on guidance needed for true progress. Marianne took a completely different approach, one that embodies what I believe is probably the most effective form of leadership.
And so when it was my turn, I had my peer with me and I had my sight and he didn't, but I stayed right next to him on that wall. And this is what great coaches do. We have something that our clients or our students don't yet have. For me, it was sight. So I would take his hand and I would put it on the next handhold, and I would take his foot and I would say, put it on this next foothold. And there's a foothold right above your knee, and I'm right here with you.
Right.
And I'm telling you the next steps because I can see him and you can't.
Right.
And that is the leadership that I admire most, is when we're doing this together, we're in this together. You have advantages that I don't have, but you're sharing them with me. And that for me is the measurement of impact. It's not how fast can I climb the wall. It's how many people can I get to the top.
It's not how fast I can climb the wall. It's how many people I can get to the top of the wall. That statement encapsulates everything I believe about true entrepreneurial leadership, true parent leadership as well. You see, in my own journey, I found that the most fulfilling moments were not when I was standing alone on the summit, doing the Superman pose as my cape whirled in the wind. No. They were when I was helping someone else reach heights they didn't even think they could reach. They thought were impossible. When I was guiding them past obstacles that seemed at one time insurmountable. Yeah, it's this side-by-side leadership approach that is essentially important for entrepreneurs, but not just for entrepreneurs, but for the parent entrepreneurs that are listening now. Because isn't this exactly how we want to raise our children? How we raise our children? We don't stand on the top of the stairs shouting instructions to the toddler on how to climb the stairs. Right? You don't stand on the other side of the living room and start shouting at the 18-month-old, okay, here's what you do. You put your hands down and then put your butt up in the air. Then you pinch your torso and stand up. Now take that little foot right there and put it in front of the other little foot, and soon you'll be walking across the floor. No, what we really do as parents is we get down at their level. We hold their hand and we climb with them one step at a time. Or we stand up in front of them and teach them to stand up by helping them up. And then we take a step and then they take a step, right? We lead next to them. That same principle, it applies to building a business while raising a family. It's not about racing ahead and leaving all your loved ones behind or all your teammates behind. It's about bringing everyone along on the journey, sharing your advantages and celebrating a collective success. Yeah, there are going to be points where you're going to say, I did this awesomely and you did that awesomely and you did this awesomely, because you all have unique skills. but it's a collective success. And for my dark horse entrepreneurs listening, this is a powerful reminder that your success is not measured by how quickly you reach your goals. It's measured by how many people you bring along as you accomplish those goals. It's not about being first. It's about finishing together. And while we're on the topic of parenting entrepreneurship, I want to dive into something that's particularly relevant to my dark horse audience of parents and entrepreneurs. Because here, we have this intersection of parenting and entrepreneurship. Right? We honed in here a couple of years ago and have been just drilling around in there. Many of our listeners are parents trying to build a business while raising families. Some of you aren't, and I get it. You still get value in here. I hope that's why you're still here. But for those parents that are trying to build businesses while raising families, they often struggle with feelings of guilt or inadequacy on both fronts. Here, I had the perfect person to ask questions about this. Marianne is raising 6 kids while running multiple businesses. So I was eager to hear how she approaches this integration of the two. How does she involve her kids in her business journey rather than seeing her business and family as competing priorities? Her answer begins first with a fundamental shift on how we think about the relationship between work and family.
I'm really grateful that the trend of abandoning the word of balance is taking fire right now. And it's becoming very common. And I don't remember if I learned this from someone. If someone taught me this, thank you. But I will teach those that are listening, if you haven't learned this yet, abandon balance in exchange for harmony.
This concept of harmony versus balance is revolutionary for my parent entrepreneurs listening, for all my entrepreneurs listening. Balance, he says with air quotes once again, implies that work and family are opposing forces, right? There's a dark side over here and there's a light side over there. You got Vader and you got Luke going at it. That they're opposing forces that need to be perfectly counterweighed against each other, right? The force will always bring balance. Or picture the blindfolded lady of justice with her scales. Yeah, it creates this constant sense of failure because, let's be honest, perfect balance is nearly impossible to maintain. It's almost impossible to gain, but it's impossible to maintain. Harmony, on the other hand, that's a different animal. Harmony recognizes that different aspects of our life can complement each other rather than compete with one another. Marianne explains this beautifully using a musical metaphor.
And here's what that means. If you've ever listened to an incredible piece of music, I had the opportunity to go see Star Wars in concert, which basically means, I got goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yes.
You watch the movie, but the orchestra is playing the music live in person. And it is one of the most impactful, just the vibrations and the music and the live. But here's the thing, the music would be completely ruined if the trumpets didn't come in on time, or the piano forgot to play, or the drums were out of beat, and that's disharmony. And that is one of the greatest assaults on your auditory senses, is when there's disharmony. And the same thing is true for when we're parenting. We sometimes get to have the business be the loudest instrument that plays. And sometimes it's the kids that are the loudest instrument. And sometimes it's your private bubble bath on your own where you're not talking to anybody. That's your loudest instrument. And the question is, do you enjoy the music of your day?
What a powerful reframe that is. Instead of trying to give equal time to everything, which, as we already know, is impossible, we can focus on creating a harmonious composition where different elements take the lead at different times. And I love this because I love music, as many of you know. I play drums, I love guitar, but in all the different pieces of music, I love all different kinds of music. Kind of depends on the mood I'm in. What harmony do I need in my life at the moment? Do I need some hard rock to get me going? Or do I need something more mellow, even classical music? But harmony doesn't just happen, does it? It requires intentional integration of the various parts of our lives, of those instruments in that music. For Marianne, this means actively involving her children in her business rather than keeping those worlds completely separated.
One of my favorite things to do as a parent is ask my kids how they want to be involved in what we're building. My daughter that's here in the room with me, she comes to pretty much every single one of our events, and she's in charge of check-in, and she knows how to run check-in, and we pay her to do it, and she gets to set up her table. And I think the last event she made like $250 just selling her own crocheted animals that she does. And my other daughter, we're teaching her how to run the soundboard because that's how she wants to play in the business. My 2-year-old son, I bring him up on stage with me not to exploit him. I don't want to do that, but if he needs his mom in that moment, I'm holding him on my hip and I have him right there with me because he needs his mom.
That approach right there transforms the parent entrepreneur journey from a source of guilt into an opportunity for family growth. Instead of apologizing to our children for building a business, we can invite them into the process and let them develop skills and build confidence right alongside us, right? Yeah, why not? But Marianne doesn't stop there. She has a special message, especially for the moms in our audience, one that addresses a double standard that many of us maybe don't recognize.
I want to talk to the moms specifically. If you're a mom and you're listening to this, just lean in for a second. And if you're a dad listening to this and you know a mom, you have a mom, or you're married to one, I want you to lean into this because there's a question that often gets asked, and I think that we're not giving ourselves enough credit. And here it is. As a woman, oftentimes we get asked, how do you do it? How do you be a career mom? How do you do the career and then come home and be a mom? And you know what's crazy is dads don't get asked that question. And I think I don't want to talk about fairness or equality or getting into sexism or any of that. But what I do want to point out is that you're probably not giving yourself enough credit for all of your accomplishments.
This, I think, is such an important point. We rarely get out there and ask the men how they balance being a father and being an entrepreneur and being a breadwinner and being the guy who fixes the car and changes the tires and mows the lawn. No, it's assumed that they can do all that. But women are constantly questioned about the things that they have to juggle, their own juggling act, which creates an additional layer of pressure and guilt. Marianne's message to all the parents out there, but especially to the moms, is one of validation and encouragement.
So I just want to, if you're just listen with your heart, if you're not seeing me on camera, and just if no one has told you today, you're doing a hell of a good job.
Oh,
you're here.
Yes.
You've survived everything that life has thrown at you, even if it's just barely. You're here. So well done.
That message right there, 100% resonates deeply with me. As a father who went through a period of, I'm going to use the phrase, single parenting during my daughter's medical crisis, I experienced firsthand the challenges of balancing work and family responsibilities. You see, back when my youngest daughter, Krista, needed a liver and small bowel transplant, the best doctors for the operation were up in Pittsburgh, right, at the Children's Hospital there. I, however, was working down at Coca-Cola in the downtown office in Atlanta. My wife at the time and the baby went up to Pittsburgh while I stayed down in Atlanta with my oldest daughter, who was around 4, maybe it was 3 or 4 years old. Okay. So effectively, I became the single dad, getting her up every morning, getting her fed and clothed, and handling the whole homemaker parent package. What surprised me was the reaction when my then wife returned and met the other moms in the area. You see, all those other moms, they were shocked that my daughter always looked well cared for, and they assumed I must have had a girlfriend living with because they could not imagine a father handling all those responsibilities by himself. This experience taught me how deeply gender expectations are embedded in our culture and how they could limit some mothers and some fathers. The truth, my friends, the truth is parenting is a challenge for everyone. I don't care what gender you are. And entrepreneurship is challenging for everyone. Now, combining those two requires a little grace, a little flexibility, and a bit of willingness to redefine success on your own terms. For all the parent entrepreneurs listening out there right now, lean in. I want you to hear me. Remember that you do not need to achieve perfect balance. Instead, as Marianne points out, let's aim for harmony, where your business and your family life complement each other like a nice warm hug. Okay? And give yourself all the damn credit for everything you have accomplished, you are accomplishing, and the shit you're about to accomplish. Even on those days when it feels like you're barely keeping your head above water.
The Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
Okay. Sorry, got off a little rant there. I want to go into one of the more challenging aspects of being a parent entrepreneur, and I think that's knowing which version of yourself that you need to bring to any given situation. When do you need to be a disciplinarian? When do you need to be the nurturing mom or the nurturing dad? When do you need to be the visionary leader? Or when do you need to be the supportive teammate? These questions become more and more complex when you're building a business while trying to raise a family. The entrepreneurial world often celebrates a very certain type of leadership: decisive, assertive, and unwavering, right? We've all seen the shorts out there. TikTok is full of them. Okay. But is that always what our children need from us? Is it always what our teammates need from us? Marianne shared a profound insight about authentic parenting that applies equally well to authentic leadership in business.
Here's the crux of it all. Are you showing up the way that you're showing up because you need to feel a certain way? Or are you showing up the way that you're showing up with your kids because they need to feel a certain way?
That question right there quite literally stopped me in my tracks while we were having this chat. How often do we parent or lead from our own needs rather than what others need from us? How often do we default to a certain leadership style simply because it's comfortable to us, not because it's effective for the person we're trying to lead at that moment? Marianne explains how she navigates this challenge by being intentionally flexible in her approach.
When I'm at my best, now this isn't always the case, but when I'm at my best, I get to be divergent, which means I get to shift into tender when my kids need that. And I get to put the hammer away that I typically would throw down. Mm-hmm. And when the hammer needs to be mother loving thrown down because it's going to save you from walking into a dumpster fire, I will do that.
Yes.
I will do that. But it's this constant coming back to the baseline of, am I showing up in love? And what does that call for in this moment, right now?
That concept of divergent leadership, being able to shift your approach based on what others need rather than defaulting to a single style that's comfortable for you. Yeah, that's incredibly powerful for all my entrepreneurs out there, especially for my parent entrepreneurs. In business, we often hear about being consistent in our leadership, but what Marianne is describing is something a bit more fine-tuned, a bit more nuanced. Consistency in your core values, showing up in love and as a servepreneur, while being flexible in your approach, tender or firm, depending on what is actually needed in your coaching, or leading. This reminds me of something I've observed again in my own journey. When you approach leadership from a service mindset, you'll naturally become more adaptable. You're not focused on maintaining a certain image. You're not trying to be Instagram perfect, or you're not sticking to a particular style. You're focused on what will best serve the person in front of you, the person you're trying to help, the person you're trying to lead. It's like that old saying, when all you have is a hammer, every damn thing's going to look like a nail. I took a little liberty with that and I get it. If you're committed to a single style of leadership, whether that's being the disciplinarian or being the friend or being the visionary or being the ever hated micromanager, you'll try to apply that approach to every single situation you encounter, even when it's 100% not appropriate. But when you lead from a place of service, from the heart, let's say, you can put away the hammer when it's not needed. You can bring out different tools from your Batman utility belt for different situations. You can be firm when firmness is required, and you can be gentle when gentleness is far more effective. For those of us who have more than one child, we know all too well what works for one child may not always work for the other one. You feel me? Yeah, sometimes use the hammer on one child, use that same hammer, and they're like, yeah, whatever. You feel me? Okay? So this flexibility shouldn't be seen as a weakness. It should be seen as wisdom. It's recognizing that different moments call for different approaches, and having the emotional intelligence to shift accordingly is wisdom. Okay? For my parent entrepreneurs out there, this is particularly important because you are constantly moving between roles. In one moment, you're going to need to be the CEO making the tough decisions. In the next, you're going to need to be the comforting parent, helping out with homework. In the next after that, you're going to need to be the creative visionary that's mapping out the next product launch, or perhaps helping one of your daughters launch their business. The key is to not get locked into one of these roles. Don't make it your whole life, but instead remain centered in your core values while adapting your approach to what each situation really needs. This, I believe, is the essence of authentic leadership. Not playing a role or maintaining an image, but showing up as your full self with all the capabilities at the ready in your utility belt, and then bringing forward whatever tool or aspect of yourself from that utility belt is needed in that moment. And for my dark horse entrepreneurs that are out there building businesses while raising families, this divergent approach to leadership can be the difference between constant conflict and harmonious growth. It allows you to be fully present in each role without feeling like you're compromising who you are. Phew, man, I'm telling you what, this was one of the most powerful interviews I've done in quite some time. And I told her that. I appreciated every minute we spent together. But right now, it's time for our Whiskered Wisdom section. This is where we distill down the day's conversation into a single actionable insight that you can apply immediately to your entrepreneurial journey. So right after you're finished listening to this podcast, you could take an action step. Now, throughout my conversation with Marianne, we explored how she transformed from invisible to influential, how she balances parenting 6 children with multiple businesses, and how she approaches leadership from a place of service rather than her ego. But I wanted to end with something a little more provocative, something that might give that final oomph, that final push to all my parent entrepreneurs out there who know they need more visibility but are hesitating to step into the spotlight. So I asked Marianne, what final provocative, controversial thought would you like to leave my listeners with that might give them that push to get into the spotlight? Whatever that means for you, okay? And I mean you listening right now. Her answer was simple but profound.
The thought that comes to mind when you ask that question is a principle that I've lived ever since I was a kid. And this first came to me when I was first trying to make money. And the only way I knew how to make money meant that I was door knocking as a 5-year-old. And I would go collect aluminum cans and take them to the recycle center for my $1.50 that I got.
You just dated yourself.
Yeah, I totally did. I'm okay with that. 40 and loving it. Never looked so good.
There it is.
But the principle is the principle that I call the 10 seconds of bravery. Usually when we're afraid to do something or we're avoiding doing something, that is the very thing that if we were to do it would take us to whatever the next level is financially, whatever the next level is in our health, whatever the next level is in our intimacy with our spouse, whatever the next level is with our children. The very thing that we are avoiding is the thing that's going to take us to that point. 10 seconds of bravery is all it takes to do it.
10 seconds of bravery. What a powerful concept. Marianne goes on to explain just how accessible this approach makes courage.
If you can do anything, I can do anything for 10 seconds. I can hold my breath for 10 seconds. I can sleep for 10 seconds. I can walk for 10 seconds. I can go a full sprint for 10 seconds. 10 seconds of bravery, and there's 10 digits on a keypad. When you know you need to dial a customer and pick up the phone and call your leads, count 10 seconds of bravery and dial the 10 digits. Congratulations, you just went through 10 seconds, and then do 10 more seconds, and then do 10 more seconds, and then do 10 more seconds. But that very thing that you've been too afraid to do it for 10 seconds. Because if you can do that, then everything opens up. And I know I'm speaking hyperbole, but you know what your everything is. You know that whatever that dream is that you put on your shelf and it's been collecting dust and you've almost forgotten, you know what that is. Pull it down.
That concept of 10 seconds of bravery reminds me of something that I've been teaching for years. You've heard it here any number of times. And I call it the pinky toe approach to expanding your comfort zone. And if you've ever heard a number of my podcast episodes, you've heard me mention it. But for those that are new around here, here's how it works. I want you to imagine your comfort zone as a circle around you, okay? Most people think that they need to make this big giant leap outside the circle to grow, jumping into the deep end with both feet, you might say, but that's not necessary. And it's often what's going to keep you frozen in paralysis, okay? Instead, here's what you need to do. You need to just take your pinky toe and place it slightly outside your comfort zone. That's it. Then take that tiny step that feels manageable. Maybe it's recording a 30-second video. Maybe it's sending an email that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's starting to have that conversation with your spouse about your business dreams, about vacation dreams, having children. I don't know. Whatever it is, you don't need to be brave forever. You just need to be brave for 10 seconds, 10 seconds of bravery, just enough to take that small action. And here's what's going to happen next. After you take that small, brave action, your comfort zone, it goes out just a little bit. Now, what was once outside of your comfort zone starts to fall inside your comfort zone. Then, you take that next small step from there. Over time, these small expansions add up to massive growth. You've heard the whole thing. Would you rather have $1 million or a penny doubled for 30 days? Right? And we all know the answer to that one. If you don't, go look it up. But it's like compound interest for your courage. And one day, when you do this consistently, day over day over day, that little pinky toe movement, you'll look back at things that used to terrify you and wonder what the hell you were afraid of. This approach is perfect for all my entrepreneurs, but especially for my parent entrepreneurs, because it works within the constraints of your life. You don't need hours and hours of uninterrupted time to transform your business or build your platform. You need 10 seconds here and 10 seconds there. Small moments of bravery that compound over time. So, all that said, here's your Whiskered Wisdom challenge for today. Identify one small brave action that you've been avoiding that would move your business forward. Maybe it's recording your first video. Maybe it's reaching out to that first potential client. Maybe it's sharing your business idea with someone who could actually help you, someone who actually gives a damn. Whatever it is, commit to 10 seconds of bravery. That's it, just 10 seconds. And then notice how your comfort zone expands just a little bit so that you can make the next brave action just a little bit easier. Remember what Marianne said. The very thing that we are avoiding is the thing that's going to take us to that point. Your breakthrough is waiting just on the other side of those 10 seconds. Okay? Now, before we wrap up today's episode, Marianne has generously offered a valuable resource to all my Dark Horse entrepreneurs listening out there that are looking to increase their visibility through podcast guesting.
We have a database of over 1,000 podcasts, and all of these podcasts say we need guests, and they've included their application links in the spreadsheet that I have. So I compiled this list. I put it all together. A lot of them are organized by topic. Some of them are not organized yet. You can keyword search the entire thing. And you don't have to have a professional keynote ready. You don't have to have a professional studio. You don't have to have a professional this, that, what, the other. It is nice if your audio sounds clean. But I do want you, if you have a good message, because you and I both know that there's enough people out there with corrupt hearts, with evil intent, and they have a megaphone, and we need to drown them by speaking louder.
That, my friends, is an incredible opportunity for those of you out there looking to implement that 10 seconds of bravery that I just talked about. Getting on podcasts is probably one of the most effective ways to build your authority quickly and reach new audiences. And Marianne is making it even easier by sharing her database of over 1,000 shows that are already actively looking for guests. You can access that resource completely free, mariannehickman.com/database. And there also will be a link down below in the show notes, so you can just click right through. Man, I want to take this moment to publicly thank Marianne Hickman for joining us on the show and sharing her journey of going from invisible to influential, her insights on speaking and parenting and leadership. Well, it gave me a roadmap for building my success to another level, hopefully yours as well. But to build businesses that align with our values while making a genuine impact, something you've heard me preach from behind this microphone for going on 5 years now. And one thing struck me most about this conversation I had with Marianne, the consistent focus on service over self. Whether she's speaking on stage, coaching clients, or raising 6 children, this service mindset is what transforms ordinary entrepreneurs into extraordinary leaders. There were so many other nuggets that were in the interview I had with her, and I couldn't pack them all into this episode. So if you want to watch or listen to the full episode, you'll find it over on our YouTube channel. The link will again be down in the show notes, or you can go to YouTube and search for Dark Horse Entrepreneur. You'll see our shield logo there. Click on that and you'll find that full interview in there. And it was like an hour long or whatever it was. So if you found any value in today's episode, I'd love for you to share it with another parent entrepreneur you know needs to hear the messages contained herein. And while you're at it, you're going to share it. Go ahead and subscribe to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur podcast so you do not miss any future episodes. Go ahead and listen to some of the old ones. And if there's something you're looking to hear, let me know. Right? Go out to the darkhorseschooling.com and there's the contact us page on there, and you can leave your information and your requests. I've done a number of podcast episodes solely from requests. And for more digital marketing strategies specifically designed for my busy parent entrepreneurs, be sure to sign up for the free weekly newsletter. You can find that at darkhorseinsider.com. Each week, we're going to deliver actionable tips and insights straight into your inbox. Perfect for implementing inside those small pockets of time that you're going to find between soccer practice and bedtime stories. So until next time, this is your humble host, Tracy Brinkman, reminding you that we dark horses, we do not just run our race, we change how the race is won. So think successfully and take action.
Hey, my Dark Horse entrepreneurs, thanks for investing your precious time with us today. I know that between soccer practice and bedtime stories, every single minute counts. And that's exactly why I created the Dark Horse Insider, your weekly dose of digital marketing strategies, all designed specifically for my busy entrepreneurs, especially my busy parent entrepreneurs. If you're ready to turn those small pockets of time into profitable momentum, head on over to darkhorseinsider.com. darkhorseinsider.com and join our free newsletter, because we dark horses do not just run the race, we change how the race is won. Until next time, think successfully and take action. darkhorseinsider.com.